Why the athletic abilities of Manny Pacquiao will destroy the winner of Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. Alright, y'all, so I've dropped a few videos regarding the return of boxing legend Manny Pacquiao and his potential upcoming fight between either Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Bud Crawford. Now, this is all based off of whether Manny Pacquiao feels like he had a good enough showing versus DKO in his upcoming exhibition. He said as long as he feels good about that exhibition, he is willing and ready to make a comeback to professional boxing, and he wants none other than the top two welterweights, Terence Bud Crawford and Errol the Truth Spence Jr. Now, I want to give a breakdown of why I feel like Manny Pacquiao has the better boxing abilities, or all around the better athletic abilities in the sport of boxing, and why those abilities could potentially beat Spence or Crawford. Okay, so, when you think about Manny Pacquiao, it's one thing, maybe two things. But there's one definite thing that comes to mind when you think about Manny Pacquiao, and that is speed, speed, speed. I'm not sure if Manny Pacquiao is the quickest fighter in history, but he's definitely in that top 10 of quickest fighters in the sport of boxing within the last 50 years. I don't know 10 other, I could probably name 9 other fighters that are just as quick, or maybe could be argued that they were quicker than Manny Pacquiao. But of the last 10 years, I would probably say that Manny Pacquiao would top that list. So if you had to hang your hat on one ability that Manny Pacquiao has, those other two fighters, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, do not have, it would be the ability of speed. And not only speed, but once in a 50-year time span speed. Once of a generation speed. You could argue that Manny Pacquiao is one of a kind in the speed category. When it comes to the second ability I believe Manny Pacquiao has over these two fighters, I would say it's power. Now, you could argue that Errol Spence Jr. would have the greater ability of power out of those three fighters because he's naturally the biggest. But power can be delivered in so many different ways. When it comes to Manny Pacquiao, the one thing his opponents or his sparring partners usually say is, he didn't really hit me with the hardest punch I've ever felt, but the way he delivered the punch felt like the hardest punch I've ever felt. I don't know if that's a good enough analogy of what these sparring partners and former opponents of Pacquiao have put out there about his punching power or his punching ability, but that's the way I'm gonna break it down, because from what I interpret, that's exactly what they mean. It's not the amount of power delivered by Manny Pacquiao, but it's maybe the angle that he delivered the power from, like in the Keith Thurman fight where he was able to drop Keith Thurman with a punch that looked like it shouldn't have even hurt Thurman. But the way he delivered the punch, the power dropped Thurman. So I would say that power punching is the second ability that Manny Pacquiao has that these two fighters don't have. Now, out of those two categories, you can start to break down other boxing skills that maybe those two fighters do better than Manny Pacquiao. Like the switching ability of Bud is something that I don't think Manny Pacquiao's ever tried. I don't think I've ever seen Manny Pacquiao switch into a stance other than southpaw stance. And I've never really seen Pacquiao need to switch out of the southpaw stance. He delivers power perfectly from the southpaw stance. The angles work perfectly for him out of the southpaw stance. And he's able to generate speed at a tremendous rate out of the southpaw stance. So there's never been a reasoning for Manny Pacquiao to have to go orthodox, but you can definitely give a one-up to Terence Crawford because he can switch from orthodox to southpaw. Now, as far as Errol Spence goes, what would be the one ability or the abilities of Errol Spence that Manny Pacquiao doesn't possess? And I would have to say that is the jab. Now, I'm not saying Manny Pacquiao doesn't have a good jab. Manny Pacquiao uses his jab when it's appropriate, but he's not a jab-first type of fighter. Where Errol Spence Jr., everything Errol Spence does, it works off the jab. If you were a boxing coach, you would fall in love with Errol Spence really quickly because boxing coaches want you to be as fundamental as possible. Now, when you have a special fighter like Manny Pacquiao, and he had a great coach, Freddie Roach, you don't want to take him away from what he does best. So you wouldn't want to turn a fighter like Manny Pacquiao into a jab-first fighter like Errol Spence Jr. because that's not what he does best. His best abilities are using speed to generate angles that generate power. Errol Spence's best ability is to use the jab to establish position, to establish power. And, that works best for him, So you wouldn't want to take a fighter who doesn't do that well naturally and try to force them into doing that, because what ends up happening is you get a situation kind of like Kambosos, to where he was trying to do something that doesn't naturally fit his abilities, which was switching back and forth. But because he isn't a purist boxer, when he does switch back and forth, he's not going from one boxing stance into another boxing stance, or he's not going from southpaw to orthodox to do something that a skilled boxer would do. He's going from southpaw to orthodox to confuse his opponent, and what ended up happening was he confused himself because he doesn't have a great boxing skill, one great boxing skill to work off of once he does switch. It just made him look silly, and he was just doing a lot of random things trying to throw power after he switched, and it didn't work out well for him. So when you break it down, to me, I think the abilities of Manny Pacquiao, his experience, his speed, his power, his angles, are the reasoning I would pick Pacquiao over both of those guys. And I know a lot of people feel like, well, Pacquiao's old, Pacquiao doesn't have it anymore, Pacquiao this, Pacquiao that, when it comes to him losing to those two fighters. But nobody's ever really gave me an exact reason why they feel like Errol Spence Jr. beats him. And only thing I can think of is they feel like, well, Errol Spence would do Pacquiao like he did Ugas. But the problem there is Ugas doesn't possess the ability of angles or speed. So he tried to stand right in front of Errol Spence and trade blows with him, trade big man blows, big welterweight blows, and it didn't work out, and he got his orbital bones and his ribs destroyed for that. And I don't understand why people would look at Manny Pacquiao in that same category and not look at it from the lens of Manny Pacquiao, that he is a speed fighter. There's no way Manny Pacquiao is just going to stand there and let Errol Spence tee off on him. He is a angles fighter. There's no way Manny Pacquiao is going to stand there and allow Errol Spence to just keep pumping that jab in his face. And he is an experienced fighter. There's nothing in Manny Pacquiao's ring IQ that would have you think that he would just stand there and allow Errol Spence to tee off on him for 12 rounds straight, or until the ref stopped it. So there's no way in my mind that I feel like Errol Spence or Bud Crawford possess better natural boxing abilities or athletic abilities than Manny Pacquiao. I think the athletic ability of Manny Pacquiao is superior to both of those guys, as long as he brings all of those attributes to the boxing ring. Y'all hit that like button for me. Share, subscribe. Tell me what you think down in the comment section. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. More than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. if you want to respond. It's your boy, Cardinal, Bud Crawford, or E.S. Red, if that's what you want to call me. And we are Manny.
I ain't even got to do too much talking, because I know what's going to happen come Saturday.
Yeah. Is you ready for me? 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 Nigga. Spotless. Check it. Is you ready?